Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are trying out a team that I recently fought against and got absolutely destroyed by. It's actually been a while since I've done one of these videos, but the original creator of this team and the person that I played against was kind enough to send me the rental after our battle. And if you want to check that battle, by the way, I've linked it down in the description below. And so huge thank you to them for sending in this team. I've linked their Twitter down in the description below, and rental and paste are also down there if you want to try it out yourselves. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below, and thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. So, this team is really cool because it's got Necrozma Dusk Mane and Kyogre. First of all, that duo in itself is already really rare, but you've also got Wigglytuff with safety goggles, Skill Swap Jynx, as well as Life Orb Special Dragapult. So, let's first of all talk a little bit about Necrozma. Why is this Pokemon not very common in the format? The main problem with it is that it has a lot of very common weaknesses, right? You're weak to Ghost, so Calyrex Shadow Rider. You're weak to Dark, so Yveltal. You're weak to Ground, so Groudon. You're weak to Fire, so things like Incineroar, for example, and Charizard. There are just so many high-level Pokemon that give Necrozma a lot of trouble, right? And the other problem is that it just doesn't do that much damage. That's why you often see Weakness Policy or Sword Dance on these sets. And the third problem is that you can actually get affected by Intimidate, right? Sometimes players like using Solgaleo instead because it's at least immune to stat drops, and so Intimidate has no value, but Necrozma actually can get intimidated. So for all those reasons, it is not a very easy Pokemon to use, and it can be difficult to execute. The way around it then is, first of all, you have Kyogre to support it, right? And so that covers for a lot of the ground and fire type weaknesses. You've got Wigglytuff, which I think is really cool because Wigglytuff essentially can soak up any Intimidates, get a +2 special attack boost from competitive, and suddenly pressure with damage. It's also got Heal Pulse here, so you can actually heal up the Necrozma, and Wigglytuff is actually very slow. So when you set up Trick Room, Wigglytuff can just heal Necrozma before often anyone else even moves, and then Necrozma can stick around on the field for a little bit longer. Sword Dance is really important here because it's you're not going to do very much damage often without it, and since you have a lot of bulk on this team and a lot of healing between Wigglypuff's Heal Pulse and Amoongus's Pollen Puff, you can actually heal Necrozma multiple times, and that means Necrozma can aim to not only get one Sword Dance off, but maybe 2, even 3 if you can, right? And so, yeah, the idea is that you're often going to try to set up Trick Room, right? You can lead Amoongus Necrozma, Amoongus Jynx, Jynx Necrozma, for example. Try to get Trick Room up and then go from there, but it's not necessarily a necessity. Now, we've talked about the first 3 Pokemon. Jynx here is really interesting because it's got Dry Skin and Skill Swap, and it's actually pretty speedy. It's also one of the few Pokemon that actually get access to a sleep-inducing move, right? So Lovely Kiss isn't the highest accuracy, but it's actually pretty decent, and putting things to sleep in general can just be so valuable. This Jynx, though, has no attacking move. Instead, you've got Skill Swap and Trick Room. So you can catch your opponents off guard with Trick Room. I think very few will expect it on Jynx just because it's not a very common attack on it, and Jynx isn't a common Pokemon at all. And then Skill Swap is really cool with Kyogre because you can change the weather immediately, and that's really valuable when the sun is up. When I played against this team, actually, I had the sun up and thought I was in a really good position, but then they just Skill Swap, changed the weather, and I was like, oh, that's not good for me. You can also give Dry Skin into your own Kyogre, which is cool because then Kyogre heals up a little bit each turn, and Dry Skin recovery is actually very, very nice. The one thing I want to note about Skill Swap is that it doesn't work on a Dynamaxmon. I actually learned this the hard way where I was playing a practice game with the team. Tried to Skill Swap the Dry Skin onto my Dynamax Necrozma so that Necrozma could eat up a Max Geyser from the opposing Kyogre, and it didn't work. And I was like, oh, I should probably know that. And so don't make that mistake. I had to learn it the hard way. So yeah, make sure that when you're using it, it's when you're not Dynamaxed. And so just an important lesson there. Kyogre is really standard here. Do know that you don't have Ice Beam though, so hitting something like Amoongus might be a little bit more difficult. And then finally, you've got Life Orb Special Dragapult. This one's really interesting because I think it comes out in very niche matchups, but Gastrodon can be a huge pain for this team because there's no consistent damage into it at all other than Wigglytuff, Dazzling Gleam basically. And so the Dragapult can really come out against Gastrodon. You can max Overgrowth it, for example. Will-O-Wisp is valuable into all the physical attackers like Zacian and Groudon. And then you've actually got Fire Blast and Hydro Pump, so a lot of weather control, which I also think is unique. And there's a weird scenario where you can actually max Flare towards the end of Dragapult's Dynamax and then Solar Beam to KO Gastrodon. They're never going to expect that. So, this team definitely is really, really fun, and I think it features just Pokemon that we almost never get to use. I think Necrozma still is really tough to execute, honestly, but I think Kyogre Necrozma is a very underrated pairing, and just underplayed pairing, if any. So, yeah. Let's get into today's episode. Question of the day, by the way, I'm curious if you tuned into regionals this weekend. I did actually play in it, but I unfortunately did very poorly. And so Pokemon is a really hard game. It's really hard to consistently win at the high level all the time. So if you ever feel like you're struggling with the game, trust me, it's not you. Everyone goes through that when you play the game at a high level. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun still, learned a lot of good lessons from it. The top cut was actually absolutely insane. I kind of want to do some like post-game analysis of some of those and just rewatch some. I think that would be pretty fun. So if that's content you want to see, let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, let's get started. All right, first game of the day here. And we are up against Mimikyu, Calyrex, Kyogre, Urshifu, Regieleki, and Incineroar. So what do I want to bring here? Competitive Wigglytuff is actually pretty interesting, because I can get competitive boost from the Incineroar. Among Us with Spore is going to be valuable here, but I think like they have a lot of ways around it, right? You can set up Electric Train with both the Regieleki and the Kyogre. Mimikyu and Incin both could have Taunt, and then Calyrex can also just Glacial Lance it. So for all of those reasons, I'm actually not bring Among Us. Honestly, the Regieleki is the main concern. I guess one approach we could take is just Among Us, Wigglytuff, like Rage Powder into Swords Dance and go from there. Like, Among Us is still valuable, right? Because if they go the Trick Room route, or if I set up Trick Room, I can still put in a ton of work with it. So then what am I scared about? Maybe like a Kyogre lead? Wigglytuff, or sorry, Jynx is then interesting because of Fake Out. Okay, I'm down for Jynx and Necrozma. Kyogre in the back. It's between Among Us and Wigglytuff for the last one. I think Among Us is probably just a little bit more consistent here. Wigglytuff is fun because they don't have any fairy resistances or immunities. I'm going to bring Wigglytuff. We just don't get to use this Pokemon very much. Like, I think Among Us might be a little bit better because what I can do is like Fake Out into Trick Room, then bring Among Us out and start sporing everything. All the things I listed that were problems to Among Us earlier are, you know, issues outside of Trick Room, because it would be like Among Us either getting knocked out or the Electric Train getting set up, right? I think it's still set up Electric Train beforehand, but it is going to be Incin and Regieleki, okay? So I have a faster Fake Out here with Jynx. Would have been cool to lead Wigglytuff here to get the competitive boost, but honestly, I don't think it would have been that strong. I wonder here, though, it's like, do you consider Dynamaxing Regieleki, honestly? You could. You really could. Because I don't have any electric switch-ins is the problem. Okay. I'm going to... Oh, I do have Trick Room here on the Jynx, actually. I think I'm going to just click Fake Out onto Incin here in Trick Room on turn 1. We'll see if Regieleki maxes. They don't Dynamax. Okay, cool. Incin flinches, and they just Volt Switch into Jynx. Okay. Life Orb Regieleki. Well, I'm honestly happy to see it not Dynamax there. So what's interesting is now I can like swap Necrozma out, expecting Incineroar to Parting Shot it, bring out Wigglytuff, and then get a competitive boost, right? Swords Dance here actually may have been a little bit better, but yeah, my other question is, I guess, how fast their Calyrex is. Swords Dance would have actually been really strong, because I could just go for Lovely Kiss into like another Swords Dance, for example. So here I think I'm actually going to double switch into Kyogre and into Wigglytuff. And this is where I meant, like, if I had Among Us, right, then I can sacrifice Jynx, bring in the Among Us, and just click Spore. But Regieleki plus Incin, I think, is a very powerful lead. What's my best answer into that? Jynx plus... No, I mean, Wigglytuff to get the competitive boost, right, would be so fun. But I don't know how much value I actually get out of it. The interesting thing here is now we've actually gotten Kyogre out into a spot where, like, you know, a single water spout next turn will put in a ton of work. They're going to max here as well. Okay, cool. So I wonder if they, like, Quake into the Necrozma slot. You should honestly try to cover for the Jynx, because if not... The Jynx actually causes huge problems with the Lovely Kiss. Like if you didn't cover for Jynx and it goes for a Lovely Kiss on a Dynamax Calyrex, it's like a disaster, right? So I expect the Quake to be going into the Jynx slot, but let's see. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So obviously a lot of damage. We take over half our health there, which is less than ideal. So like setting up Trick Room may have not been the smartest idea, but I wanted to do it because I was worried about like Aleki Dynamaxing immediately. It is going to be Parting Shot here into the Wigglytuff, so that is going to give us competitive. In fact, it's double competitive. So the question is, I wonder if I can pull anything off with Wigglytuff here. The problem is, like, everything else I have in the back right now is pretty weak to the Max Quakes from the Calyrex. You can just bring out Kyogre now, honestly. Should be Min Speed and Calyrex, right? Like, you've got Mimikyu on the team. That's a more Trick Room oriented combination. Oh, it's Urshifu, actually. Okay. Well, I am at +3. I haven't Dynamaxed yet, but I'm pretty low HP on 2 different Pokemon. One play I could go for is to actually heal up Kyogre with Heal Pulse. Take the Quake. And Origin Pulse here. I'm kind of down for that. Yeah, I guess my only question is Calyrex's speed here, but we do outspeed it. Okay, cool. Is 40... Can Calyrex get lower than 45, actually? I don't remember. They're going to Quake. Okay. This time onto Wigglytuff. Yep. It's a lot of damage, but it doesn't KO us. And the most important thing right now is I'm trying to stall out the Calyrex's Dynamax, right? So that's pretty critical. Okay, we bring Urshifu down to... Wait, that's not Sash. It just lived on 1 HP. I think it's Sash anyway, right? Okay. So Wigglytuff will go down, but I actually managed to heal up on the way out. Although, like, Gleam and Origin Pulse there would have just managed to guarantee a knockout, but then Kyogre would be lower HP, right? Now I can bring out Jynx and just click Fake Out into the Urshifu slot. Fake Out into Urshifu. How many turns of Trick Room are left? Because, like, even though they'll be at +3, Dynamax Kyogre doesn't seem like a terrible option. So, like, yeah, I'm down to Protect here. And click Fake Out into Urshifu. I think Urshifu switching out into Incin here is the most likely option for their end, but that's fine. I can't believe Urshifu survived the Origin Pulse with what looks like 1 HP, but I think it has Sash here anyway, like I mentioned. Okay, they are going to Protect. That's fine. Okay, I expect a third Quake here. Could go into Jynx, but it actually makes sense to target the Kyogre slot as well. Yeah, they're going to target Jynx though. Okay. So we've stalled out my opponent's Dynamax fully. That's the upside. The downside is they still have Aleki plus the Incin in the back, and there's Sucker Punch pressure from the Urshifu right now as well. So I wish I could have gotten a little bit more out of Wigglytuff. Would have been even interesting to think about it Dynamaxing, but it still takes a lot of damage, honestly. And it's not like Starfall, even at +3, does that much damage to a Calyrex that does a bunch of special defense boosts, right? I think the main downside in this game is that I set up Trick Room, but then my opponent got more value out of it, right? Last turn of Trick Room now. +3. We know it's Incin plus Aleki in the back. I mean, honestly prefer Dynamaxing the Kyogre here, I think. Yeah, I mean, I can just Dynamax and then just go for Geyser onto Calyrex and just Rock Slide, right? I guess the problem is my opponent could Sucker Punch high horsepower Necrozma. I think I have to max Kyogre, though, because it's so strong against the Incin and the Aleki. Okay, they're going to switch out probably into the Incin. Yeah, that makes sense. And it would have also been interesting to, like, I don't know, we could have maxed Necrozma, Steel Spike into Calyrex, and just Origin Pulse. So, I have a very late Dynamax here. We'll see what we can get out of it. The Heal Pulse from Wigglytuff was huge, though, right? In allowing Kyogre to stick around for a little bit longer. But I do wish that, you know, I got at least one competitive attack off. Or one attack off after the competitive boost, I should say. Okay, they have horsepower Kyogre. Cool. It makes sense to not target Necrozma there because your fear is that I end up, like, you don't want to activate a weakness policy, right? So that makes sense. Okay, it is policy on Calyrex. No major surprise there. I think what's scary now is that, like, my opponent used my Trick Room perfectly, and now they have the faster, like, Urshifu and Regieleki outside of Trick Room as well, right? However, what's interesting here is I can consider actually just simply setting up another Trick Room, which I think I really should, actually. So I'm just going to go for another Geyser onto Calyrex. And just Trick Room here, I think. Because I've got the Colbur Berry, so with Colbur I can definitely take a Sucker Punch or a Wicked Blow from Urshifu. Instant's damage output here is very insignificant at the moment. Instant could just click Fake Out. Calyrex could Protect here. You could also Parting Shot with Instant. That's an interesting consideration, but Kyogre with Dynamax, you know, base 150, Wave Incense is still just so powerful right now. And they have no switch-ins. Because their team is Instant, Calyrex, the Regieleki, and the Urshifu. Because they only brought one restricted in this. Okay, Calyrex does go for the Protect. So this is a really strong play if they're not clicking Fake Out. But it is Fake Out. Okay, I'm okay with that then. I do think I should get another Trick Room up in this game. I could have gone for the knockout onto Instant, but I don't want to give my opponent a free switch in right now, right? And like, Kyogre plus Necrozma under Trick Room is just incredibly powerful in this endgame. So here I'm going to go for a third Geyser. I could KO Instant and then Sun Steel Strike, but then the problem is it's just a Regieleki plus Urshifu, right? And then you could just Thunderbolt and Wicked Blow. Whereas here, I'll have an endgame where I have still a full-powered Necrozma out on the field. So I'm going to water Max Geyser Calyrex again in Trick Room. Okay, cool. What would have been really interesting there is my opponent intentionally letting me set up Trick Room so that the Incineroar then can, and Calyrex can, like, outspeed me under Trick Room, right? So you, like, click Parting Shot into Kyogre, or even just, like, a Dark-type attack into the Necrozma slot there. Okay, they're going to Parting Shot us. I mean, the only downside now is that the Necrozma's damage output is obviously incredibly lacking. We're already at -2, and with Instinct coming back out, it'll be at -3, but that's fine. You know, I think you could make an argument for a Moongus over one of Jynx or Wigglytuff in this game. But first of all, how often do we get to bring Wigglytuff, right? And, like, the Heal Pulse is really important because now Kyogre is at a point where I could take the high horsepower after, right? So we'll get Trick Room up. I think you have to absolutely bring out Incineroar right now to pressure with Fake Out. What's important here is also Kyogre being able to reset the range, so I'm pretty happy about that. The scary thing is not having Protect on Necrozma, because now you can bring out Instant and just pressure Fake Out into the Kyogre slot, right? And then just an Electric type attack. However, you could read into Kyogre protecting and then double up onto Necrozma here. That being said, I'm not sure they even get the KO onto Necrozma with the double up. So for that reason, I would rather simply just go for a Protect here. Yeah. And I'm actually down to Rock Slide here because in case they like fake out the Kyogre but then Thunderbolt into Necrozma, Rock Slide gives me a flinch chance on Regieleki. Our endgame right now centers fully around Kyogre, and I don't need any Swords Dance boosts on the Necrozma. Swords Dance is tempting in a position like this, but like Kyogre just KOs everything with spread type water damage right now, right? So this is a big turn. Like, we'll see if my opponent reads into the Protect, which is fairly obvious. But they fake out into... Okay, beautiful. I don't even care what Regieleki goes for here. As long as the fake out went into that slot, that's huge. Okay, so Rock Slide doesn't do much, but like I said, it gives me a flinch chance onto Regieleki, and they actually Volt Switch into Kyogre. Okay, perfect. So now what's your play? Because I can obviously just go for Water Spout right now, right? And Swords Dance. Their play would be to protect Regieleki, pivot instant... Like, Oh, this is so interesting. Like, I could intentionally read into the Regieleki Protect, right? Because I think your play is essentially protect Regieleki and then switch Incin out into Urshifu. Let me KO the Urshifu so that you bring Incin back in for another fake out. So my way around that is actually clicking Thunder onto the Regieleki slot and clicking Swords Dance to intentionally deny them that free switch in and bait out Regieleki's Protect. Yep. Okay. Like, basically, I want the Urshifu out on the field. I don't want to KO Incineroar. So this was a really interesting turn, right? Because, like, the obvious play for me there is to just attack with Water Spout. But in doing this, now you have Urshifu out, but the Regieleki already committed Protect, right? And Kyogre's, I guess the only thing is, do I want to click Water Spout this turn rather than, like, do I want to click Origin Pulse? Because Urshifu can obviously go for a Sucker Punch onto me. So the idea here is denying them a free switch in, which I think is actually a really cool example here. So 2 turns of Trick Room left. I'm at -1 special attack. If you Sucker Punch me, it's not ideal. So there's 2 turns of Trick Room left here, by the way, as well. Just keep that in mind. So I think here I'm down to just click Origin Pulse and Rock Slide. I maybe could have just gone for Swords Dance earlier, because then if I had gone for 2 Swords Dances, then we'd actually be in a decent spot. But Urshifu actually just commits Protect here. Okay, that works for me. If we don't miss Origin Pulse here, I think we're in a very prime position to win this end game. I clicked Origin Pulse because I don't want to deal with like a crit Sucker Punch from Urshifu, but I guess the odds of a crit are lower than Origin Pulse miss. So maybe I also just, I don't know, like Sucker Punch in itself just might do... I wouldn't do that. I mean, we know it's Life Orb Regieleki though, right? It's not AV, so maybe Water Spout actually is just more consistent there. Because it's like, the chances of missing Origin Pulse are higher than the chances of missing or getting crit there. And if I'm trying to play around a crit, right, like that's fine. I'll add, like, I'm trying to optimize the odds there. Origin Pulse miss doesn't actually make things better. Okay, last turn of Trick Room here. Colbur Berry. They need to go for a double Protect with Urshifu for sure. Like, your play is to fake out into Kyogre and go for a double Protect. Anything else and you lose the game. So I'm down to Origin Pulse here and Rock Slide, and even if they get the double, I think we can still win because I've got the Colbur. But they don't go for the double. Okay, so if we hit Rock Slide here, we're good. Nice. Beautiful. What an interesting game here. I think this game was really cool because of the, like, intentionally predicting a Protect and not trying to get a knockout when it's a seemingly obvious KO that you can take to deny your opponent a free switch and back into their fake out user, which I think is awesome. So I wish we got a little bit more value out of Jynx and Wigglytuff, but, you know, Jynx was valuable for the fake out pressure on turn 1, and then Wigglytuff, you know, was able to heal up my Kyogre, which Kyogre, like, ended up sweeping in this endgame, right? So, like, that recovery was honestly really important. So I was able to heal up the Kyogre, and it was also able to divert pressure away, because as soon as I got the competitive boost, you could tell that my opponent was laser focused and actually KOing the Wigglytuff, right? And so that diverted attention away from the Kyogre. We healed up the Kyogre, managed to stall up my opponent's Dynamax, and set ourselves up for this very interesting Trick Room endgame. So, you know, you're not really going to be sweeping with Wigglytuff or Jynx, right? They're more utility-based, but sometimes the passive utility is really interesting, where it's like my opponent's like, well, if I leave Jynx out on the field, now it's already at +3, and I've got an instant in the back, which will activate competitive again. I got to deal with it sooner than later, right? But in doing so, it stalls out another turn of Dynamax for my opponents and set Kyogre up for success in this end game. So that was a long one, but it was a really fun game, honestly. So let's look for another. While we're in between games, I did actually double check Calyrex Ice Rider's speed, and Wigglytuff's base speed is actually lower. So as a result, we always should go first with that Heal Pulse turn, which is good, because at the time I thought that was the case, but I just wasn't 100% sure, mainly because I use Wigglytuff so rarely. So it's good to confirm that, because, yeah, we're base 45 and they're base 50. So Yveltal Dialga for the next game here. I think Yveltal is probably the worst restricted Pokemon to go up against, mainly because, like, the combination of Dark and Flying is just incredibly good here. But that doesn't mean it's unwinnable, right? Like, we have interesting answers where Jynx can actually just go for a Lovely Kiss onto it. This isn't really the game for Dragapult either. Like, Dragapult's very niche, given it as the special moveset. So it would be valuable for, like, burning Zacians or, you know, going for Max Flare or Geyser. So we'll drop that. Wigglytuff's actually very interesting here because of its matchup into the dark types, so I want to bring it. The scary thing is playing around the Dialga, right? Amoonguss has Koba here, which I find valuable. I think here I'm fine with Amoonguss plus Necrozma and then Wigglytuff plus Kyogre. Jynx feels pretty volatile to me here. I don't think we get that much value out of Skill Swap, to be honest. Like, Fake Out can help, I guess against like Rillaboom and Incin, but that's basically it. So, like, the idea here is that I've got Koba on the Amoonguss, meaning I can take a max Airstream from the Yveltal, and if I can put the Yveltal to sleep, that's obviously amazing, right? But turn 1, if they lead Fake Out plus Yveltal, then I can Trick Room and Spore simultaneously, especially because I have the Colbur Berry on Necrozma. Yeah, seeing Dialga and Yveltal together is pretty interesting, though. It's going to be Grim and Yveltal. Okay, that works for me. One thing to really be careful about here, though, is Foul Play Grimmsnarl. That's going to be really scary, actually. The other funny thing is if you max Darkness, like, Wigglytuff's competitive activates, and getting a competitive boost here, like, Wigglytuff is actually a very viable Dynamax option. Honestly, here, turn 1, I do want to just click Spore and Trick Room simultaneously. They are going to Dynamax, okay. Because if I put Yveltal to sleep as it Dynamaxes, that's amazing, right? And so, if you're not putting me to sleep... Or sorry, if I'm not putting you to sleep, it means that you're targeting Amoonguss, but because of the Koba, I should be able to take a max Airstream here, meaning that you'd have to double up onto Amoonguss. Maybe Grim has Fake Out or Taunt here. They just go for Reflect. That is the best case scenario, in my opinion. If we survive with Amoonguss here, it's a complete disaster for my opponent, because I get Trick Room up, and unless Yveltal's Safety Goggles or Lum. And yeah, with Koba, wow, that did way less than I expected, actually. If I had to guess, then they're Assault Vest on Yveltal, because, like, the thing is, on their team, they have Yveltal and Dialga, and I think Dialga is a much more effective Dynamax slash Life Orb holder, right? Oh, you're actually Lum on Yveltal. That's pretty cool. That is very cool. That's one way to get around all the sleep that's running around in the format right now. But I'm okay with that. What do I want to do here? I could Swords Dance with Necrozma. Grim is a little bit scary, honestly. They have Reflect up. They haven't set up a light screen yet. You could maybe Foul Play into Amoonguss. Protect Yveltal. That doesn't concern me that much. Like, I actually am down to just Spore into Yveltal here and Swords Dance, I think. Even if they have Foul Play with Colbur Berry and Prism Armor, I'm not that worried. Max Guard does come out. That's fine. Oh, they're actually just going for Para. Okay. Fine by me. They'll Spore onto Grim, that would have been really nice, because then it's just like a very free Spore on a Yveltal, but I don't mind targeting Yveltal here, right? And now I outspeed your Grimmsnarl under Trick Room. So I can just Spore into Yveltal and max Steel Spike into the Grimmsnarl slot. That works for me. Even if I get full paired here with Colbur and Prism Armor, I feel pretty good about the game state. They actually switch Yveltal out, okay? Rillaboom coming in makes sense, I think. Could be Incin as well. Yeah. I wish I considered switching Amoonguss out into the Wigglytuff there to get the competitive boost. That would have been really sweet. But that's okay. I mean, if Incin is not Goggles here and we put it to sleep... So the awkward thing about Incin for my opponents is that, like, you know, it often wants to switch out with Parting Shot, or you just manually switch. But as soon as Wigglytuff hits the field, it's like, you have to think really hard about bringing the Incineroar back in, right? So that's where, like, Wigglytuff is just really interesting. And here, my opponent's entire team is actually going to take neutral damage from Wiggly, which is also sweet. Okay, Grim's just spreading Paras. That makes sense. It's like you have nothing better to go for, so at least like make it harder for me to attack each turn. Cool. It's not Goggles Instant, which is perfect. Yeah, I mean, in the end, my opponent got such little value out of their Dynamax, right? And that was huge for us. I do get paired on Necrozma here, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. Okay, let us go out into Wigglytuff now. Actually, Kyogre's the better bet, because we can just spread Water Spout now. So let's go into Kyogre and just Steel Spike into Grimmsnarl. If Incineroar switches out, I can consider switching like Kyogre into Wigglytuff the next turn. Because I actually think Wigglytuff, if it gets a competitive boost, can be absolutely amazing here. But the Kyogre just puts on way more offensive pressure against this duel. Okay, Sucker Punch is revealed to be their final. So no foul play, which is also good. That does nothing. No full para, beautiful. Steel Spike into the Grimmsnarl, and it does get the KO despite the Intimidate and the Reflect since we had Swords Danced. Perfect. And Incin will take just its first turn of sleep here. So we are in good shape right now. One thing to think about is the Dialga that's probably going to be in the back for my opponent, because I actually don't have any consistent damage into it other than like Dazzling Gleam or just Water Spout from Kyogre. But given that Trick Room is up right now, I feel very, very good about the position. The other interesting thing is, do I actually want to think about switching into Wigglytuff to eat up a potential parting shot should the Incineroar wake up? So the last turn of Trick Room right now, I am down to just Water Spout here. Yeah, I think Water Spout and Steel Spike into Dialga is fine this turn. Curious if Dialga protects. The thing is, Dialga is honestly a really not a good like non-Dynamax option. Or I shouldn't say that. I guess what I mean to say is that it's way weaker than when it is Dynamaxed, and so we can use that towards our advantage. Ideally, we get a second Trick Room up in this game with the Mungus next to Necrozma, but since Necrozma doesn't have Protect, that might not actually be that easy. Ugh, I do get paired again, though, and Incin does wake up. So there's the parting shot, right? So that's where I could have switched Kyogre out into the Wigglytuff, but it's like they had only taken one turn of sleep. So that was just an extremely unlucky turn, right? Like full para into one turn wake up as well. But the interesting is now that you have Incin in the back, it means you actually have to bring it back out at some point, which can give me a competitive boost, which I think is fun. Not getting that Steel Spike into Dialga, though, is frustrating because I'm just looking for any free damage that I can take, but that might be a crit on Yveltal. No, not even. Wow. Okay. And they go for Roar of Time. Wow. I mean, it makes sense because they're going for damage, but the problem by going for Roar of Time now is that you can't attack this next turn. Also, that means it's probably not AV Yveltal given how much it took there. That's interesting. I mean, I have a defense boost. Reflect is still up. I think the correct play here is to just click Thunder onto the Yveltal. I mean, does Yveltal ever KO Kyogre from this position? I wouldn't think so, to be honest. Like, Thunder and then switch out into Wigglytuff means we have a Wigglytuff endgame with competitive. The other thing I could have gone for was Angle for another Trick Room, but I was a little bit nervous about full paras. The one thing here is that the Yveltal could actually target the Kyogre slot instead. And they are going to. Okay, that's not great. I don't think they should KO us, though. And given how much Origin Pulse did, like, it doesn't look like your AB Yveltal. I would think Thunder actually still KOs here, but let's see. And this is what I was looking for, right? Which is them bringing out Incineroar and activating competitive on the Wigglytuff. Okay, Yveltal faints. What is the item on that? Because it's not Assault Vest, and I'm really surprised by that. The fact that neither Yveltal nor Dialga were Life Orb was also very surprising. But now we get the Wigglytuff competitive boost. That's what I was looking for. Cool. With that, I think here I'm just going to simply protect Wigglytuff, pivot Kyogre out into Amoonguss, and then just go for Rage Powder Dazzling Gleams. Yeah. Oh, I guess the one downside is I can get full parried right now off that, which I guess I don't love, but it's also max Bedef Wigglytuff. So I should take a Flash Cannon from Dialga, especially because you're not Life Orbed. I just really wanted to get competitive Wigglytuff off in this one. Okay. I mean, the early game was so strong, right, with the sleep onto the Yveltal that I felt like a lot would have to go wrong for us to lose this one. They split their damage. They just go for Earth Power. That's fine. Amoonguss takes that. If we don't get full parried here, we're in great shape. So it's just Rage Powder. Let me also just double check how many turns of Rain are left. Perfect. So there's only one turn left, meaning that I reset the rain after this turn, which is obviously great. My opponent's win con here is really... Okay, Dialga reveals Protect. So it's Protect, Rare of Time, Earth Power, and then presumably Flash Cannon. We know it's not Goggles here, and the rain is up, so I don't know if a Flare Blitz even KOs Amoonguss. Oh, but you've got Taunt. Okay, that's a very nice play. I like that a lot. But I'm still fine with that. Let's see how much +2 Gleam does here. That is not bad damage, honestly. I will take that. Reflect wears off. I should probably switch out for Regenerator into Necrozma right now. The other interesting consideration is actually staying in and clicking Pollen Puff, but I think getting Regenerator value is more valuable right now. Like, we have so much healing between all of the Pokemon on this team, thanks to Pollen Puff as well as Heal Pulse. Okay. Oh, I don't think they have Flash Cannon if they're going for an Earth Power there. Which is great news for us, obviously. And they're just going for Flare Blitz. Perfect. Blitz plus Gleam. Oh, okay. The double to Necrozma. We survive on 1 HP. That's a nice play, though. But I think Gleam just KOs you now if you don't have a berry. Let's go, Wigglytuff. Beautiful. I wonder if they have... I mean, it is very odd to see a Dialga without Max Steel Spike, honestly. But yeah, now we can just pivot back out into Amoonguss and Gleam. So you can see, like, even though Yveltal is a really scary matchup, being able to put it to sleep gave us a huge advantage. What's interesting is that I think my opponent's Grimmsnarl essentially contributed very little, if essentially no value in this game, actually. Like, they spread Thunder Wave, sure, but that's basically it. Yeah, Dialga just commits a Protect. And then, like, Incine's really passive in terms of damage, right? So, and, like, Yveltal and Dialga just did not really do enough here. So if you were my opponent and you want to get around the Spores, like, you could either bring Regieleki and Dynamax it for Max Lightning, although that wouldn't actually help against Yveltal because Yveltal's not grounded, so it's not affected by electric terrain. Or you can bring Rillaboom and, like, have some more fake out pressure, right, early on. But, yeah, I can just Rage Powder and Gleam. I'm just so glad to, like, show what Wigglytuff can actually do here. And the fact that we got the competitive boost, got it activated, was super nice. And it's also important to note, right, like, Wigglytuff has the safety goggles, and so this is actually, like, against teams that have, like, Incineroar plus Amoonguss, you can totally wreck them. And so, yeah, Gleam will finish off against Dialga here. So these are some really, really fun games. I mean, this team is just so unique, right? So we didn't really get to bring out Dragapult, but this was an amazing game for Wigglytuff, and, you know, the combination of Necrozma and Kyogre was obviously just incredibly powerful in that previous one. All right, final match here. I've been having so much fun with this one, and this team is crazy. Okay, Calyrex, Zacian, but Charizard, Zapdos, Tornadus, Gastrodon. It's funny because these are all actually really common Pokemon in the format, but it's, like, weird seeing a Zapdos and a Charizard next to each other. Can I do anything with Dragapult here? Because we do have Will-O-Wisp. It's so weak into Calyrex. I mean, Calyrex kind of wrecks me here with Astral Barrage spam, right? So, how do I get around that? I definitely need to set up Trick Room in this game, and I definitely need to put it to sleep. Ugh, them having Gastrodon doesn't do me any favors either, though. I can't even fake out with Jynx. Sorry, I can fake out, but I can't fake out into Calyrex. I can't Trick Room with it, though, which is interesting. This thing's like a nightmare matchup, actually, because it's like normally the solution is, okay, we can just Dynamax Kyogre and do a lot of damage, but they have a Gastrodon as well. And, like, I just can't do anything to Gastrodon, actually. Maybe it is actually a Dynamax Dragapult game, as crazy as that seems. I'm going to try Dragapult out here. Like, it's just so tough. I went Amoonguss Dragapult. I don't know, like, the reality here is that we don't have any ghost resistances. So, Calyrex in general just kind of wrecks me. The idea with Amoonguss is that I can, like... I guess I can't even Max Guard Dragapult is the thing, but I can Dynamax it. Yeah, this is just... Oh, okay, Calyrex and Zapdos. If we were just regular physical Dragapult here, it'd be a little bit better. Part Part of why I brought Dragapult, by the way, is because I figured they have Zacian and Gastrodon in the back, but they didn't lead either, which is really bad news for me here. I don't know what to do, honestly. You can just Astral Barrage and Airstream. Oh, and Koba doesn't even work here, which is really bad. I feel like I just get wrecked by Calyrex. Oh, it's so sad. I just don't know what to do against this lead. Jynx, like, the problem is Fake Out doesn't really work here. I could go Necrozma. The best bet may have been to like lead Necrozma Amoonguss and just protect Amoonguss, Dynamax Necrozma, Rockfall, but that's not even going to KO the Calyrex turn 1. Yeah, and they max Zapdos too. Like, if they don't have Gastrodon, I guess, like, they do, though. How do I beat Zapdos, Calyrex, Gastrodon, and and Zacian? I just don't see a solution, honestly. It's maybe Jynx and Amoonguss, and then just going for, Lovely Kiss and Spore simultaneously to Calyrex, then bring out Necrozma and set up Trick Room. I think that's my best bet. But I honestly think the game is over right now. Like, I don't think I can win this. Barring them not being Focus Sash and we crit a Geyser. I also should have probably gone for Flare there, and that just does so much damage. Leading Dragapult into a Necrozma or Calyrex is pretty questionable, honestly. I'm sure they're airstreaming Amoonguss here. Yeah, it's like the berries being canceled also makes it so much harder. I have no idea. Like, I think we're just pretty Calyrex weak, honestly. And it's not like there are no solutions to it, but the fact that my opponent has Zapdos to give it further speed boost, they have Gastrodon to absorb pressure from Kyogre and Zacian in the back is all just a nightmare. I can Max Guard here. My best bet of winning this game is, I guess, getting up a Trick Room. And then sweeping with Kyogre under Trick Room. So maybe because of... but then the thing is, you can just Lightning plus Astral Barrage it. Okay. So maybe we switch Amoonguss out into Kyogre here. And I Max Guard. Okay, I think this is still winnable. I just... Wait, actually, the solution against my opponent's lead is actually simply just Amoonguss plus Necrozma. Because they're so fast-paced and offensive that my goal is to get Trick Room up. So yeah, even though this is a really tough matchup, basically, like, I needed to do a better job of identifying that I essentially need Trick Room up if I want a chance to win this game. And the way to do that, essentially, is to just lead Necrozma plus Amoonguss and say, I'm going to give up Amoonguss, but it means getting Trick Room up. Because Kyogre... actually, Kyogre no Trick Room isn't even... Like, the problem is that they have Gastrodon in the back. So even if I get Trick Room up, you just bring in Gastrodon. Oh, what a nightmare. I can Protect here. They're going to Astral Barrage again. Actually, I think it's better to give up Dragapult right now. Or sorry, not Dragapult, Kyogre. Okay, you're Astral Barraging. Who would you Airstream here? Probably the Kyogre slot. I mean, it's just a double KO, but I don't have any way around it. Yeah, this is just a nightmare. And that's the reality, right? You're not always going to have good matchups with every team. And inherently, this team is weak to Calyrex Shadow Rider because there's not a single Ghost Resistance or Immunity, nor do we have any Dark type attacks, right? So, it's kind of to be expected. I could have considered a double Max Guard on Dragapult there, actually, to not give them a free boost. Because they'll just pick up a double knockout now. I'll bring out Amoonguss and Necrozma. I don't even think we can win with that. So like I said, the solution, like, if I were to replay this, I would lead Amoonguss Necrozma, and actually, I would actually probably just protect Amoonguss and hope Necrozma can take an Astral Barrage plus Life for Max Lightning. Because if I want to win the game, I need to put things to sleep with the Mungus. Because, like, even if I set up Trick Room and I get a free switch into Kyogre, Kyogre Necrozma never really beats the Gastrodon. So, yeah. This is like pretty much an auto-loss matchup, honestly. But that's okay, right? Like, Zapdos, Calyrex, Gastrodon is not exactly a very common core. Those 3 Pokemon are all incredibly powerful. I guess, actually, though, if you replace Zapdos with Thundurus, it's kind of the same deal. And that team actually just won regionals. Like, Thundurus plus Calyrex plus Gastrodon. So, yeah. You're not always going to have it great, but I'm going to Trick Room here and Protect. Don't really think there's much we can do, though. And that's why, like, typing is really important in the team building process, where it's, like, not having any immunities or resistances to Ghost just makes things tougher for me here. And the problem here is that I've already given Calyrex a special attack boost as well. So, I led poorly, for sure. Yeah, that almost just one-shots me. And they have Rising Voltage. I could have gone for Rage Powder there, but I honestly don't think it even accomplishes much. Like, it maybe delays the game by a turn or 2. Yeah, we get Trick Room up, but yeah, like, I don't have enough comeback potential with the Mungus and Necrozma. But, I mean, I guess the one thing is I did have Swords Dance and Pollen Puff. But the thing is, I can't even click Spore onto Calyrex because the Electric Train is up as well. So, I mean, that was just a stomp. I got crushed. But to be honest, I feel like I have very few tools to even win that game. So this is a great example of, like, when you lose a game, sometimes it's because your play is suboptimal. My play was definitely a little suboptimal here, but like I said, even if I find the right lead adjustment, which is maybe a Mungus Necrozma or, you know, Jynx Necrozma, even then, it's still kind of a disaster because, like, there's no answer in a Gastrodon. That's actually why I felt pressure to bring the Dragapult, because I was like, okay, at least Dragapult can deal damage in a Gastrodon with max overgrowth, and they're never going to expect that. But sometimes you just have to accept that you're not going to have favorable matchups across the board. That being said, Calyrex Shadow right now is one of the most popular picks, right? Especially given that it just won a regional championship. So let's say I was thinking about, like, bringing this team to a tournament. I would want to be like, okay, well, Calyrex is really common, so I'd maybe want to patch up the hole a little bit and, you know, replace something to have a much better Calyrex matchup, right? So, like, Dragapult's the first slot that I look to. But then the problem is, you know, Dragapult exists here because it actually helps out a lot against, like, Gastrodon, given the Solar Beam. It can help out against, like, you know, Groudon teams as well. So when you replace something to give yourself a better matchup into one thing, you often have a worse matchup into other things. But that's just a, you know, trade-off that you have to think about in the team building process. But either way, you know, I think all the games are really interesting here. And yeah, unfortunately, Zapdos plus Calyrex. I mean, Gastrodon even come out, but you have to imagine my opponent had it in the back. Like, that in itself was already hard enough to deal with, and then you add Calyrex on top, and it's just tough. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right. Peace.